Welcome to the first episode of Founders in Finance, where every episode we hope to dig down into the insights and shape financial success in Australia. We have real conversations with business owners, investment experts, accountant professions, and everything in between to bring you real-world stories and insider insights to help you understand the financial world today. Whether you're a small business owner, an aspiring investor, or simply looking to build on your financial foundations, there's something for you. I'm your host, Ross Pocock, co-founder and financial advisor of Sternlight Financial. And today, I am joined by Joel Trapani. Joel is an inspiration to me and a serial entrepreneur. He started by changing the landscape of university education, co-founding Vygo. While still building Vygo, he has launched multiple successful podcasts and most recently delved into the card game space, all while trying to become the face of the startups across the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Now, I'm sure I missed a few things there, Joel, as every time we speak, you have a new adventure going on. But my first question is, how are you today and how do you find so much time to do everything?
Man, hey, thanks so much for having me on, Ross. I'm super excited to be on the show. We've known each other for quite a few years now. And that's such a kind introduction. I really appreciate it. And yeah, man, I think this podcast is an awesome idea. I'm excited to be a part of it and to follow the journey along as a listener as well. But how do I find the time to do shit? I don't know. Hey, I remember I used to just go deep on just like one thing. Like it was like Vygo. I wake up, I Vygo all day, and I go to sleep, and that's it. And then over time, I just started taking on kind of more like creative pursuits for fun. And I found that the more creative I got to be in these different pursuits where there was maybe less boundaries and less rigid rules, the more ideas and creativity and fun and passion I got to bring to my main project, which is Vygo, right? Like Vygo is my 99% of my time, but by creating space where I could try fucking around with tools or, like try B2C when I'd never played with that. Like that allowed me to explore ideas in a way that I never could with Vygo, and I got to bring so much more back. So I found by doing that, it almost in a weird way gave me more time because the time I spent on Vygo was much more impactful. But I also had this I can't remember if I've ever told you this, Ross, offline, but I had this rule for my life, or this theory called the paddle theory, where I think about every project in my life as a separate paddle. So like I'm in a boat, I'm rowing in one direction. I've got this goal that I'm trying to achieve, and every project I touch is like me putting a new paddle in the water. And I just have this really strict rule of, is this paddle rowing in the same direction? Because if it's not, it's going to fuck this boat up, right? It's going to go slower, even if it's only like a millimeter off or 1 degree off or whatever. It's not going in that direction I want, then I kill the project or I never take it on. So for me, I just think about I'm a founder for Vygo, and that's my main goal. I want to change education, and part of that's being a startup founder with a brand around that for hiring and investment and stuff. And so the podcast, it helps that. And then helping the startup community, helps with that credibility. I love the startup community. Like that's where I want the boat to go. So the podcast helps out, the events help out, the game, like it's all kind of linked in my mind. And so, yeah, as long as the paddle's going in the water, I think it's worth taking on. If it's fun, of course, too.
I was going to say it's funny you should say that because obviously I've known you for quite a few years now, and when we first met, Vygo was still probably very much in its earlier days, still going strong, and seeing it develop, but not only Vygo develop, but yourself and the business partners develop with that. And when I talk about the inspiration, obviously since probably I'd say in the last 18 months, that paddle analogy makes so much more sense. Like we've sat down, we've spoken about it in terms of what is that end goal. You can't just achieve it by doing one thing, or at the very least, if you are just doing one thing, it's going to be a lot slower. You've got to do other things, and that is part of the inspiration of starting this podcast, because it all starts rowing into the one direction. But in saying that, I'm sure it's not all been smooth sailing. So if you can look back right to the start, what was your first hiccup, and how did you deal with that when starting your own business?
Oh man, so many hiccups. Oh God. Um, yeah, I mean, like we've been on this journey a long time now, and when we first started, we think, startups are awesome. We're going to be, billionaires in the first couple of weeks. Like, just to start the business and it's going to be easy. But it's been it's been a whole lot harder than I could have ever imagined. The lows have been so much lower than I could have ever imagined, but also the highs have been so much higher than I could have ever imagined. I tell people all the time that doing a startup is the best job in the world, and most of the time, the worst job in the world. Like, it's that there are great moments and a lot of challenges that come along with that. Some of the early hiccups, I don't know, a lot comes to mind. Like, one of the first ones is we thought we had a plan to we had the idea, we wanted to get the idea out, and we had like a strict 16-week timeline, and it took us 16 months. So there was obviously a lot of hiccups to get out there, but probably like the first real big fuck up we made was I worked out a way to get a lot of potential clients' informations on the internet, because it's all out there, right? Like I went and I found all the lecturers in universities around Queensland, and I just emailed them all. And I said, hey guys, I'm doing this really cool thing. I'd love to any way we can partner or collab, and we couldn't have made money from them. And a lot of these universities got pretty upset that I was emailing thousands and thousands of lecturers. And that was quickly followed by a cease and desist letter. So early days, we got, that hurt real bad, right? Because we were just we weren't making any money at the time. We were just trying to help students. We weren't making any money from universities. We went out there, tried to scale and tried to help as many people as we can, and got in quite a bit of trouble. It's come since there, but that was a tough moment for sure, right? Like we thought we're doing this cool thing. I thought this was like an easy hack to grow, and it really pissed people off.
Now, obviously being new into business and getting that cease and desist, how did you react from that? Was that motivation going, all right, we're obviously treading on someone's toes, which means we could be onto something, or was it more fear of, oh no, have we made the wrong decision to go the avenue we wanted to go in?
I think immediately I was like, oh, I'm in so much trouble. I mainly felt guilty, right? For oh geez, I felt guilty to my co-founders of have I messed this up? But then very quickly I was like, fuck these guys. And then we printed the cease and desist letter out and put it up on our wall in our office. And we're just we have to kind of maybe ruffle some feathers and piss people off if we're going to make something huge and different and make real change.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have to ask, and you can say you're bound from legal requirements, but did anything come from that cease and desist? And I will put the disclosure out there, don't ignore them if you're a new business. Without legal advice, but did anything come from it?
So the cease and desist, they got real pissed off at us, and they wanted to throw anything they could at us, and there wasn't much they could throw at us. So they found some issues with our website and the way we were representing, they were represented or something. So we just made a tiny change to our website and it went away. But it was pretty much hey, don't do this again. And we're like, we won't.
Yeah.
Right? We could see that maybe there are other paths here.
And here you are, how many years later, and it's still going. So you're definitely doing something right. Obviously, this is a finance-backed podcast in a sense. So having been in starting our own company and things like that, I always find when talking to small business owners, there's a balance between cash flow and expenses, whether that is how much you're funneling into the business for growth compared to paying yourself a wage, how much you're putting into marketing versus just surviving. How did you guys balance that in the early days, and how long did it take before you were in a position where you were like, all right, we're steady now, we can actually focus in different areas without having to check the bank balance?
I don't know if I feel steady now. I don't know if I'll ever feel steady, to be honest. It depends, I think, how hard you want to run it to the wire, right? So in the early days, we just had no money. And so we just spent from our own personal banks to anything we had to pay for. Then eventually, we got a little bit of investment. And I think, one thing to clarify here when thinking about finance is that we're a venture capital backed business. So the idea here is that we for a long time spend more than we make because we just keep going on growth, right? So more sales, more marketing to allow for faster and faster growth. And then eventually, you back that spending off. But about 18 months ago, we don't want to be like, when you make that sacrifice, right? You are at the whim of investors and markets and financial dynamics. So if that venture capital market dies, then you're kind of fucked if you're spending so much money and you can't reel back from that. So for a long time, we're just going hard on growth. We just threw everything at the wall, burn fire, burn bright's what I'm getting at.
Yep.
Fucking run at it, and just hope we can come out of this nosedive. But yeah, then about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we're let's actually run this like a straight up business, and we can still invest more than we make, right? But let's not ever be the whim of anyone else. And so then we started running the business what are our running costs? Okay. And we started to change our, I guess, financial literacy and our financial reporting, and we really upgraded that to, we run a business here. And that's we've got our baseline business, and then we think about everything on top of that as investment, right? So now we're going to invest in growth, etc., or in R&D, or however we want. So, but we always think about we want to have a certain profit margin, and that's running expenses, and then over the top of that is potential investment if we want to make it or not. So I know, I think we're probably a bit too lackadaisy at the beginning with finances, didn't quite understand it. I was I'm an engineer, I can work out dollars, it's all numbers at the end of the day. But finances have nearly killed our business several times, right? I didn't understand cash flow, I didn't understand any of that stuff. So I think that's one thing I've changed, man, at the beginning, is that I would get really, really good at finances from the beginning and deeply understand how much does it cost you to sell, how much does it cost you to deliver, how much does it cost you to grow, and really understand that and use that to make better decisions.
Yeah, definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense, especially with people who, it's always that balance, and how big do you want to go with those goals as well? If people are trying to, if they're comfortable with that growing, then it's a case that they can actually take from the business. But if they're trying to grow to that next level, then unfortunately they do have to find a point where they reinvest, and often that comes from limiting the salary of the directors to start off with to get that growth. So definitely having that reserve is a big factor. Now we kind of go full 360 here, and obviously your latest venture, or I shouldn't say venture, but your latest thing is obviously becoming the face of startups, Gold Coast and Brisbane. I've actually attended multiple of your events, and every time I turn up, I think the last event almost had over 100 people. There was a line at the door just to get in, which was pretty incredible. And from that, I've actually had a few people reach out, and I've helped to mentor them to potentially move to that next stage. So what made you go from the Vygo side all the way to actually trying to support others and build that startup community on the Gold Coast and Brisbane?
It's a good question. I guess, when I first started Vygo, we were always surrounded by incredible people. And really, any major opportunity I've had in my life has always come from the people around me. Whether that's surrounding myself with great mentors or tutors or financial advisors. I'm big on surrounding myself with smart people that I can learn from. And that human connection is such an important aspect to me of anything. And Vygo is all about human connection, right? What Vygo is that we help students at universities connect with whoever they need to get their degree. So whether they need a mentor, a tutor, a counselor, it's connection, right? I'm giving students that moment they need to get the confidence to take another step. And that's because at university, I had that experience. In the early days of Vygo, I had these incredible mentors, incredible tutors, and I met them all because there was a lot of stuff going on. I had a lot of chances to meet great people, and a lot of those people, Vygo's only here because of them, right? They were the ones that patted me on the shoulder when I needed it, or told me that was a fucking dumb idea when I needed it, or was it everything? So I always missed that. And then I went to America and lived in America, and I just saw the startup ecosystem over there, and it was crazy, right? The amount of people I got to meet and the amount of support there was for one another. And then when I came back to Australia, it was just dead. There was nothing going on. It was so hard to meet people in the space. So I don't really see it I don't feel like I'm trying to become the face of startups. I think I'm I just want to create a space that people can meet. Like, so I'm just running these events. I don't make money. I just lose money from them. I just want to bring people together to connect, so that hopefully for me, those people will what help me get through those early stages. And I'm hoping people get that out of coming to these events as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great ethos in that sense. It's very selfless and obviously building from that. And I can attest, if anyone is looking in the area, definitely to reach out, because it's they are great events and worth attending to. So with so much on your plate and with things being so hectic and crazy sometimes, what gets you out of bed to still continue doing this? So a lot of business owners, obviously the stress and things like that, but what actually gets you out of bed going, wanting to put in that effort to multiple businesses every single day?
I don't know if this is even one that I should be sharing, because like I feel like there's a lot of altruistic ones to put out there, right? Like I want to help students get that degree. I want to help people connect, but like I just have like this fucking thing inside me that says like I feel like I'm capable of doing something massive, and I would hate to get to the end of my life and not achieved what I was capable of. I would hate to have left chips on the table. So I don't know how to describe that. Maybe it was a fucking chip on the shoulder, but like I don't want to look back and regret that I didn't give it everything. And so I just want to get up and just like look back on my weeks and be like, yeah, that was a good week. I gave that everything. There's nothing left in the tank there. I want to leave it all in the field.
I love that. It's, building that legacy. I cannot remember who says it, and I will try and find it, but there's that old saying, which is true hell is when yourself meets the person you could have been. That is true hell.
Man.
So
that's a brutal thought.
I agree. There's that drive. That saying has tortured me, because I would hate to one day look forward and go, they are living the life I wanted to live because I did not put in the effort of when I could. Leave it all out on the table. That's one of my favorite sayings. So
that's good. Send that to me after.
Yeah, I'll find out who actually said it and send you the.
Yeah. I don't think it's healthy, but I just think it's my reality.
There's plenty of other unhealthy habits out there, isn't there? So, one last question in terms of that. Then, obviously, if someone is looking to start their own business and are nervous to make that jump, what would be that one advice? Or someone in their first year still trying to grow and get their feet on the ground within whatever market they're in, what would be that advice for someone that's done it in multiple areas multiple times?
Yeah, I mean, just fucking go for it, right? Like you've really got nothing to lose. Like the worst case is that you come back to where you are now, and that's a completely fine scenario. And I would just hate to look back and having not tried, but if I had to give one piece of advice, right, of how to improve your odds, is that really, really think about who you're surrounding yourself with. Do anything you can to surround yourself with incredible people. So people who've done it before, people who know about sales or marketing or the industry or investment, just make that circle, right? Like I spend so much of my time thinking about how I can surround myself with incredible people. I run a whole podcast, and hopefully that's value to people. But for me, it's like I just get to ask all these incredible people questions, and that I get to learn from. So do anything you can to surround yourself with great people that have done it before or know something in the space that you don't.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. I couldn't agree more. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. What's the worst that can happen is they say no.
Or they ignore you, saying, who gives a shit?
Yeah. You're not going to think about it when you wake up the next day. So it's...
And just know, if you do cold outreach, 95% of people will just ignore you. But just know that, right? So that means every 100 people you reach out to, 5 great conversations.
Definitely. And it doesn't take much to do a cold outreach once you're in that section. So
yeah.
Before we finish up, and I want to thank you for coming on, we will always give our guests the time to plug something. So what do you want to plug this month?
Awesome, man. Probably 2 things. One is buy my game. It's called Pitch Please. I made this card game specifically for founders. It's just like a fun, silly pitching game. It gets more fun the more beers you have, but essentially you just got product cards and customer cards, and you match 2 silly cards like bowling balls and surfers, and pitch why that's a great business. And I love playing it, and my friends tell me it's great. So great validation there. But that's a super fun game. So go to pitchpleasegame.com and check out my podcast. I love talking to people. I love learning about startups. So if you're interested in growing a business and learning about the best ways to possibly do that, I get incredible people, best-selling authors, the founders of unicorns, Shark Tank sharks, just incredible people and investors, and I get them on the show. And we work out and chat through the real problems people are facing in their startups. And yeah, I love doing that show, so check that out. And feel free to hit me up. Happy to chat with anyone and help however I can.
Yeah, well, whoever reaches out, maybe you're one of the 5 out of 100 responds to that cold outreach, and
yeah,
I can attest to that game. We actually have a copy in the office. It's actually on a Friday when the office kind of unwinds for a couple of hours. It comes out, and it's great fun. Especially within a business environment, I found it being really good fun. So
I got one last plug, if that's okay, Ross.
Fire away, Joel. No problem.
I can personally attest the Sternlight Financial. So if you are looking for a financial advisor, I have I cannot recommend them highly enough. And I think I've probably recommended directly 4 or 5, maybe more, 10, I don't know, a bunch of people all the way through to Ross. So like if you're looking for a financial advisor, I couldn't be more happy.
I appreciate that. I can't get better than that. And no, I always appreciate your support there, Joel. So thank you very much for that. On my side, I'm actually using my plug to plug your events, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
The startup events. So they are great fun. As I say, you definitely do have to get in early, I reckon, now, because it won't be long before you're getting too big for some of the venues. Because as I said, the last one took a lot. There was a line out the door waiting to come in. So you'll be amazed at who you meet. So I would definitely plug that. And shamelessly, obviously, like and subscribe to this podcast, where we're going to be trying to grow it. We're going to be trying to release at least twice a month, where we talk within finance experts as well as business owners. So we're actually reaching out to people in similar positions. So if there's anyone in this podcast that you want to contact, or you just have questions, feel free to reach out to me at ross@sternlightfinancial.com.au. I'll be happy to have a chat. But yeah, thank you for listening, and look forward to releasing some more in future for you. Cheers, guys.